So, what does a master's in security actually mean? Whether you're hiring for a role, trying to pick a degree, or you're already in the security field, the answer is, well, it's a lot more complicated and a lot more important than you might think. So, let's dive in.
Okay, imagine this scenario. You've got two candidates for a critical security role. On paper, they look identical. I mean, they both have a master's degree with the word security right there in the title. Your gut instinct, your first thought, is probably that they're interchangeable. But are they?
Well, the reality is, making that assumption could be a huge mistake. A degree's title is really just the cover of a book, and as we're about to find out, what's inside can be wildly different.
So let's start by just tearing down this illusion, this idea that a single title automatically guarantees a standard set of skills or knowledge.
This quote really just nails the central problem. Security has become this giant catch-all term, and that ambiguity is creating a massive blind spot in how we evaluate qualifications, leading to what you could call a false sense of equivalence.
Now let's get into the hard evidence. Just how different can these degrees really be? The answer is pretty shocking. Okay, this table lays the problem bare. It compares the course modules from 8 different security master's degrees. Over on the left, you've got a Master of Science in Security and Risk Management. It's heavy on research, heavy on technical analysis. Then all the way on the far right, you've got an MBA with a security focus. And here's the really wild part. There is almost zero overlap in what they're actually studying. One is deeply technical, the other is purely managerial, and yet, both candidates could show up applying for the exact same security job.
This is just a classic case of false equivalence. We see that one word, security, and our brain just takes a shortcut, assuming everything else is the same. But look, a degree focused on criminology and one focused on military defense are teaching fundamentally different skills, even if they share that one little word in the title.
So, you might be asking, how did we even get here? Well, it's a phenomenon that experts call credential drift, where the meaning of a qualification just stretches and blurs as it moves across totally different academic traditions. See, at the root of all this are 3 really distinct ways of thinking. A Master of Science, an MSc, that's typically built on empirical data and verifiable methods. It signals to an employer, hey, this person can handle complex technical problems. Then you have a Master of Arts, an MA, which focuses more on interpretation, context, and critical theory. That signals an ability to analyze policy or cultural issues. And then there's the MBA, which is all about managerial decision-making. It signals that you can coordinate people and resources.
So this core difference in philosophy leads to what we're calling credential drift, and it shows up in 3 key ways. First, you've got definitional drift. The word security itself literally changes its meaning when it moves from a science context to an arts or a business one. Second, you get credential substitution, which is where a less relevant degree gets treated as if it's the same as a highly specialized one. And finally, all this leads to industry normalization, where the confusion just becomes the status quo, creating these huge hidden risks for companies.
And that brings us to the consequences, because this isn't just some debate for academics. No, this ambiguity has serious, real-world impacts.
I mean, think about other critical professions for a second. We would never, ever accept this level of vagueness. In medicine, we all know the difference between a surgeon and a psychiatrist. In engineering, we clearly distinguish between a civil and an electrical engineer. They have very clear specializations because the consequences of getting it wrong are immediate and, well, severe.
So that begs the question, why on earth do we accept this ambiguity in security? Why do we let a single title cover roles as completely different as a technical risk analyst and a geopolitical strategist? Their skills aren't even in the same ballpark. They are not the same job.
And here's the crucial point. The biggest danger here is something called credentialed incompetence. This is where someone has that fancy degree on their resume, but it completely hides the fact that they just don't have the specific, verifiable skills they need for the job. And this allows people to get into senior roles in organizations, creating massive hidden risks.
Okay, so now that we get the problem, let's get practical. How can you cut through all this noise and figure out what a qualification is actually worth?
Here is a super simple 3-point checklist. First off, just ignore the title on the degree. Seriously, it's the least reliable signal you've got. Second, you've got to read the course modules. Go to the university's website and see what they actually studied. That's where you'll find the truth. And third, check the teaching methods. Is the program built on hard science, on interpretive theory, or on business case studies? That one question will tell you almost everything you need to know.
Ultimately, this whole thing comes down to a shift in mindset. A degree shouldn't just be a generic prestige marker. It has to be a signal of specific, verifiable skills.
So the next time you see Masters in Security on a resume, the question isn't just Master of what, the real question is Master of how. What can this person actually do? Answering that is the key to building a truly competent and resilient security profession.